There's a man in my neighborhood. I'm going to call him Frank. He is 61 and walks his dog every morning. Same sidewalk, same four houses, same stop sign where he turns around. He has done that walk for 20 years now. Frank has never been overweight a day in his life. He doesn't smoke. He gets a physical every single year without fail. And every year his doctor looks at the paper and says the same thing. Everything looks great. See you next year, Frank. 2 months ago, Frank stopped me at the end of my driveway. He looked almost embarrassed, like he was admitting something ridiculous. He said, "Can I ask you something weird?" Then he told me something I have now heard from hundreds of people. Around 2 in the afternoon, every single day, he feels like he is walking through wet cement. Not sleepy, just heavy. His legs feel far away. He now plans his whole day around it. Errands in the morning, nothing important after lunch. Then he said the sentence I want you to hold on to. He said, "That's the part that messes with me. Nothing changed. Same food, same walk, same house, same bedtime. Nothing changed." And here's the thing. Frank is completely right. Nothing changed in his life, but something changed inside him, and nobody caught it because nobody was looking for it. For a long time, we believed aging was a slope, a slow, gentle downhill grade that never really surprised anybody much. Slower at 50 than 40, slower at 60 than 50, a smooth line running quietly downward. That's the picture we all carry. Then a team at Stanford went looking for that slope. They wanted to measure it properly, molecule by molecule, over years. They tracked 108 people ages 25 to 75 for up to 7 years. Not casual annual check-ins. They measured over 135,000 molecules and microbes. Proteins, fats, metabolites, gut bacteria, skin bacteria, all of it. By the end, they had roughly 246 million data points. Then they went looking for that gentle grade. They could not find it. About 81% of the molecules did not change in a straight line. They lurched instead. And when researchers looked at when those lurches happened, they clustered. 2 bursts. One around the mid-40s. One around 60. So let me say this plainly. If you are over 55 and quietly wondering something, listen, you are not imagining it. Aging is not a slope. Aging is a staircase, and there is a very big step right around the age of 60. Today, I'll walk you through 5 hidden reasons healthy people fall off that step and exactly what to do about each one. There is also a 6th thing. It isn't on the list, but it decides whether the other 5 work. I'll save it. First, the frame. Without it, everything else is just a pile of tips. Your body is not broken. Your body is blocked. Frank isn't broken. His machinery works. His labs really are normal. The problem is what those labs were designed to do. Standard blood work was built to catch disease. It was never built to catch decline. Those are 2 completely different jobs. A standard panel is a smoke detector. Excellent at telling you something is burning, useless at checking the wiring behind the wall. So there's a gap between not sick and actually well. Many people fall into it around 60 and never climb out. Here's what got Stanford curious. Alzheimer's and cardiovascular risk don't creep up in a straight line. Under 60, they climb slowly. Then they rise sharply. If aging were a smooth slope, disease risk would be too. It isn't. Something specific is happening. And when researchers looked at what shifted in people in their early 60s, one system stood out. Immune function. Remember that. It comes back in reason 4. And when it does, these 5 stop looking like 5 separate problems. Let's get into it. Reason 1. The muscle cliff nobody warns you about. You've been losing muscle slowly since about age 30. Everyone knows that. After 60, that loss speeds up, but that still isn't the hidden part. Here's the part almost nobody ever mentions. It isn't how fast you lose muscle while living normally. It's how fast you lose it the moment you stop moving. Researchers took healthy older adults, average age 67, and put them on bed rest for 10 days. Healthy people, not patients. 10 days, not a month, not a hospital stay. In that time, they lost close to a kilogram of leg muscle. Call it 2 pounds, gone in a week and a half. Strength dropped, power dropped. Aerobic capacity fell by around 12%. Compared to young people on identical bed rest, older adults lost lean tissue roughly 3 to 6 times faster. Same 10 days. Now think about your real calendar. A bad flu, a knee scope, a cruise where you mostly sat, a rough winter, 2 weeks helping your daughter after a baby. At 35, none of that costs anything. You feel creaky, then you're back. At 65, that same 10 days takes 2 pounds of leg muscle and hands it over as a permanent withdrawal, unless you deliberately go get it back, and almost nobody does. They come off the couch, feel weaker, and accept it. They file it under this is what 65 feels like. Then it happens again next winter, and again the year after. This is the sudden decline people describe. It was never sudden. It was 10-day windows that never got repaid, stacking quietly. Frank had 2 of those in 18 months, a shoulder problem, then a stomach bug. He never thought about them again. His legs did. So what do? You don't need a gym. You need your legs loaded twice a week. Not walked. Loaded. Sit to stands from a chair. 3 sets of 8 to 12. No hands if you can manage it. Carry heavy things. Groceries. A loaded backpack. Water jugs. Carrying is the most underrated training that exists, and it's completely free. Walk hills whenever you can. Wear a 5 or 10 pound vest on your normal walk. Give your legs a reason. And the most important rule here, after any illness, surgery, or week on the couch, that first week back is mandatory. That is your repayment window. Most people treat it as gentle reentry. Treat it as urgent. Debt is easy to repay early. Reason 2. You're eating protein and your muscles aren't listening. This one makes people angry because they're doing everything right. When you eat protein, your muscle receives a signal that says build. The amino acid flipping that switch is mainly leucine. In a younger person, 20 to 25 grams of quality protein carries enough leucine to flip that switch all the way. After 60, the same meal barely moves the needle. Not because your muscle is broken, the receiver just got less sensitive. This has a name. Anabolic resistance, reduced ability of aging muscle to respond to protein, to insulin, and even to exercise. Same stake, same signal, nobody picking up the phone. And this is exactly where standard advice fails people over 60. Most guidance says eat a bit more protein, but many studies in older adults tested around 20 grams. A chicken breast. That is the dose that keeps coming up short in this group. It works beautifully at 30. It underperforms at 65. When researchers pushed higher, roughly 35 to 40 grams per meal, the muscle-building response came back close to young levels. That lands you around 3 to 4 grams of leucine. The machinery was never broken. The signal was simply too quiet. You weren't failing. You were whispering to someone hard of hearing, then wondering why they never turned around and answered you. Look at Frank. Breakfast is oatmeal with a splash of milk. Maybe 8 grams. His muscles heard nothing at all. Lunch is a small sandwich. Maybe 15 to 18 grams. Still under threshold. Still nothing happens. The switch stays completely off. Then, at 7 in the evening, he eats real protein, and finally, his muscles get the message. 1 call per day. On paper, his daily total looks almost acceptable. That's the trap. The daily total is hiding the actual problem completely, so stop counting daily protein. If you're under 50, keep counting. I'm talking specifically to people 60 and over here. Instead, count how many times a day you cross the threshold. Target 3, at 35 to 40 grams each meal. Eggs with the yolk, though 3 eggs is only 18 grams, so pair them. Cottage cheese is cheap and remarkably efficient. A palm-sized portion of chicken, beef, fish, or turkey works. Greek yogurt helps. A whey shake is especially rich in leucine. Plant-based eaters need larger doses and blended sources. And front-load it. Breakfast is where nearly everyone over 60 quietly fails. One more thing, possibly the most important. Resistance training resensitizes aging muscle, making it better at using the protein you eat. Protein alone helps. Loading alone helps. Together, after 60, the combination is transformative. But you can still hit everything and fail. Reason 3. Your stomach quietly stopped doing its job. There's a myth here that has done an enormous amount of damage. The myth is that you produce too much stomach acid as you age. For many older adults, the opposite is true. Many experience real decline in hydrochloric acid production. It has a name, hypochlorhydria, and it impairs protein digestion and nutrient absorption. Watch how it cascades. Vitamin B12 in food arrives bound tightly to protein. Something must physically pry it loose first. That job belongs to stomach acid and pepsin. No acid, no release. The B12 goes in and comes straight back out. Still handcuffed to the protein it arrived with. You ate it. You paid for it. You never absorbed any of it. This isn't fringe. Atrophic gastritis gradually shuts down acid-producing cells and affects a substantial share of adults over 60. B12 deficiency itself is estimated to affect roughly 10 to 15% of adults over 60. That's a lot of people. Here's why it's missed. Many older adults with poor B12 status show no anemia. Nothing dramatic on a standard panel. What they get instead is fatigue, brain fog, slipping memory, confusion, trouble with familiar tasks, sometimes tingling hands or poor balance. Hear this next part clearly. B12 deficiency can produce cognitive symptoms that closely mimic dementia, including memory loss and confusion. The critical difference is that B12-related decline is often reversible when caught early. True dementia is not. That's the whole ballgame. There are people right now being watched by their adult children with quiet dread. Some have a fixable vitamin problem, and it gets worse. Because of what we hand people for heartburn. Acid-blocking drugs shut down acid production on purpose. That's the mechanism. They're effective, and many people genuinely need them, so please hear me carefully on this particular point. One large analysis compared roughly 26,000 patients with B12 deficiency against about 184,000 people without it. Deficiency was significantly more common among those using these drugs 2 years or longer. Longer duration meant stronger association, and discontinuing was associated with reduced risk. There's also a second hit. Acid works as a sterilizing barrier too. Low acid lets bacteria grow in the stomach and small intestine, and some of them consume your B12 before absorption. So you can eat perfectly, supplement faithfully, and still come up empty. First, test properly. Ask for B12 and methylmalonic acid. Serum B12 alone can look normal while you're functionally deficient. Methylmalonic acid catches people who fall through the cracks entirely. Add homocysteine, which runs high when B12 or folate status is poor. consider a quality methylated B complex if indicated. If you're on an acid-blocking drug, talk to your physician. That's a conversation with someone who knows your medical history, not a decision from a video or a comment section. Stopping abruptly can cause rebound acid worse than the original problem. You can support acid gently. Diluted apple cider vinegar or lemon water before meals is low risk, though evidence is thin. And chew your food. Digestion begins before the stomach and is regulated by your nervous system. Slowing down costs nothing. Reason 4. The silent fire. Remember what shifted in people in their early 60s at Stanford? Molecules related to immune function. The senior author suggested declining immune function in the 60s may set off more widespread breakdown across other organs. That's a mechanism. Not you got old, a specific system declining and dragging others down behind it. Scientists call the chronic version inflammaging. Chronic, low-grade, systemic inflammation building quietly with age. Sometimes you feel it as stiffness. Often you feel nothing at all. It just runs in the background, taxing every system you have. And it's one of the sharpest predictors we've got. In one long-running study, elevated inflammatory markers predicted 3-year mortality in older adults living completely ordinary lives with no symptoms. In another study of over 1,000 hospitalized older adults, a composite inflammation score independently predicted 10-year mortality, roughly double. And here's the connection I want you to make. That silent fire doesn't just predict things. It actively eats muscle. Researchers followed 866 older adults, measuring inflammation at 70, then grip strength and muscle size at 73. The inflammation showed up in the muscle. So look at what we've built across these 4 reasons stacked on top. Reason 1 takes your muscle. Reason 2 blocks the rebuild signal. Reason 3 blocks the raw material you need to rebuild. And reason 4 burns the structure down from inside. That's not 5 problems. That's 1 problem with 5 separate doors. But here's the better news. Because they're connected, fixing one helps the others. Muscle lowers inflammation. Lower inflammation improves protein response. It compounds in both directions, and you choose which direction. So measure it. Get an H-carp test. It costs almost nothing. You want it under 1.0. Under 0.5 is better. Over 3 deserves a real conversation with your doctor. Then reduce ultra-processed food, not because of one villain ingredient, but because the overall pattern reliably raises inflammatory markers over time. Build muscle and move daily. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. Functionally, it behaves like an organ, not just something for lifting. Get visceral fat down. That's the fat around your organs, not what you pinch. It manufactures inflammatory signals around the clock. Fix your mouth. Chronic gum disease is a low-grade bacterial infection with direct access to your bloodstream. Most lists skip it. And handle your stress honestly. Chronic psychological stress drives measurable physiological inflammation. That isn't a platitude. It shows up in blood. Reason 5. The one measurement that beats your blood pressure. This is the one I want you to share afterward. The Peer study followed nearly 140,000 adults across 17 countries for about 4 years. And they squeezed people's hands. That's it. A hand dynamometer. For every 5 kilograms, about 11 pounds of lower grip strength, here's what they found. All-cause mortality risk about 16% higher. Cardiovascular death risk about 17% higher. Stroke risk about 9% higher. And here's the line that belongs on every doctor's wall. Grip strength predicted mortality better than systolic blood pressure did. That held after adjusting for age, smoking, education, and activity. It held across every income level and every country studied. Why? Because grip was never really about your hands. It's a readout of overall muscle mass and quality throughout your body. It reflects nervous system function. It correlates with cardiorespiratory fitness and vascular health. One number reporting how multiple systems are aging. Researchers now call it a functional vital sign. An accompanying editorial suggested it might be a biomarker of aging itself. Now, let me be honest, because honesty makes this more useful. Squeezing a gripper daily will not extend your life. Grip strength is a symptom of a well-maintained body, not the cause. Train only forearms and your risk barely changes. But that's exactly why it's a good measurement. You cannot fake it in the direction that actually matters to you. If grip improves over months from carrying, hanging, and eating enough protein, the underlying system improved. The number follows truth, so use it as a scoreboard, then earn the score. Buy a dynamometer. They cost roughly $25 online. Best of 3 attempts, both hands. Write the number with today's date. Test again in exactly 90 days. That's your report card. Grip varies enormously by age, sex, and size. The only number that matters is your own number, 90 days ago. To move it, do farmer's carries. Hold something heavy in each hand, walk 20 yards, set down, rest, repeat, kettlebells, grocery bags, water jugs, whatever you have. It trains grip, shoulders, core, and legs all at the same time. Hang from a bar until you can't. Drop off, rest, repeat 3 or 4 times. Remarkably effective and completely free. If you can't hang with feet off the ground, leave your heels down and take partial weight. You still benefit. There is no version of this you're too weak to start. If grip rises in 90 days, you are winning. Now, the 6th thing I promised. Your body doesn't repair while you work. It repairs afterward, mostly while you're asleep. You loaded your legs. You didn't build muscle then. You damaged it. The building happens later during deep sleep at night. You crossed the protein threshold. Those amino acids need a window to get used. You can't extinguish inflammation while driving either. Here's the problem. Deep slow-wave sleep, the restorative stage, declines significantly with age. It starts thinning out in your 40s. By your 60s, many people get a fraction of what they had at 25. Sleep becomes lighter and far more fragmented. Your fight or flight system stays partly switched on instead of handing over to the side that runs overnight repair processes properly. Growth hormone releases its largest pulses during deep sleep. Sleep restriction worsens insulin sensitivity and raises cortisol, which breaks down muscle. Poor sleep raises the same inflammatory markers from reason 4, and brain waste clearance happens largely while you're asleep too. So sleep isn't what you do after the health work. Sleep is where the health work actually gets processed and completed. First, get screened for sleep apnea if there's any suspicion at all. This is the most underdiagnosed problem in this conversation. It's frequently missed in people who aren't overweight and often missed in women because the presentation doesn't match the stereotype. If you snore, wake gasping, wake with headaches, or sleep 8 hours feeling like 4, get evaluated. Home testing is easy. Untreated apnea drives inflammation and blood pressure relentlessly, night after night. This one is genuinely worth pushing your doctor about. Anchor your wake time, not your bedtime. Same time daily, weekends included. Light hitting your eyes sets your clock powerfully. Get outside within an hour of waking for 10 or 15 minutes. Keep the bedroom cold and dark at night. Be honest about alcohol. It helps you fall asleep, then suppresses deep sleep and fragments the second half of your night. Watch caffeine timing. Its half-life runs 5 to 6 hours, and metabolism slows with age. Afternoon coffee lingers until bedtime. Magnesium glycinate and glycine are small, reasonable levers. Neither is a sedative or a miracle. And avoid large meals before bed. Now let's bring it home. Stanford's own conclusion was that our 40s and 50s deserve close attention, not later, not after. The senior author said we should adjust our lifestyles while we're still healthy. While we're still healthy. That's the entire message. Don't wait for the diagnosis. Don't wait for the fall. Don't wait for the call that starts with, "We got your results." Do it now, while it's boring and optional and nothing is wrong. Because the step at 60 is real. Data proved it. It's not in your head, and it's not a willpower failure. But a step is not the same thing as a cliff. A cliff is something you fall off. A step is something you prepare for. If you know it's coming, lift your foot. So here's your checklist. 1. Load your legs twice weekly. Never let a sick week turn into a lost month. 2. Stop counting daily protein. Count threshold crossings. 3 meals, 35 to 40 grams each. Front load your breakfast without exception. 3. Test B12, methylmalonic acid, and homocysteine. If you've used acid-blocking medication long-term, discuss it with your doctor. 4. Get an HSCRP and know your number. Then address sleep, processed food, visceral fat, and yes, your gums. 5. Buy a dynamometer. Test today, test again in 90 days, and let the number tell you the actual truth. And 6th, protect your sleep like it's part of the training, because it is. Get tested for apnea if suspicious. One last thing, none of this replaces the person who knows your history. Take these numbers to your doctor instead. Ask for the tests. Push a little if needed. The goal is walking in with better questions than, "How are my labs?" Frank started 3 of the 6. He carried his own groceries and did sit to stands while his coffee brewed each morning. He swapped oatmeal for eggs and cottage cheese, and he got tested, came back low, and started a course of injections. That's it. 3 things. No gym membership, no overhaul. He bought one cheap gripper he keeps in the kitchen drawer. He called me about 90 days later. I heard it in his voice before he even finished the first sentence. He said, "I don't know how to explain it. The cement is gone. Nothing was broken. Something was simply blocked." If you know someone over 60 told their labs look fine, who doesn't feel fine, send this to them. Someone quietly rearranging their whole day around 2 in the afternoon and never telling anybody. That's exactly who this is for.